Because there are many forces that are driving our problems, but that doesn't mean we're helpless. And history is mostly about people overcoming obstacles, and I'm very confident we can do that. But two other obstacles. One is that in terms of the situation in Europe, I think post-World War II, we have many institutions that were created out of the rubble of World War II, designed to prevent that from happening again, one of which was the European Union. And I think what we're seeing now is that many of these institutions are not as strong as we thought they were, that they always were weaker than we thought. And they always had fissures and cracks and were vulnerable. And this mass migration of refugees into the European Union has proved to be an extremely destabilizing force on the European Union. And I think the prospect of the European Union falling apart is much higher now than at any point ever. And so I think we tend to have overconfidence in institutions. We think just because they've been around for a few years, they'll be around forever, and sometimes we ignore institutions' vulnerabilities at our own risk. Because I think if the European Union were to be destabilized substantially, it would not be in the interest of the United States. And that's one reason why our government should support and assist in the replacement, the resettlement of these refugees. It's in our interest that we have a strong European Union, both economically and national security. And the other factor, Mark mentioned the media. We consume the mass media all the time. We're always on the internet. The mass media thrives on narratives of conflict. That's what they thrive on. I saw Voces de la Frontera had a big protest outside the Republican town hall last night. I saw a story on the news. 5 times, I counted, 5 times in the news story, it was just a minute or two, 5 times they emphasized this was a peaceful protest. This was a peaceful protest. Why did they say 5 times it was a peaceful protest? Shouldn't we just assume people getting together and expressing their view will be peaceful? But no, they were ready for the narrative of violence. And you could almost see the disappointment on the face of the It was peaceful. So, but they thrive on conflict. You watch the local news, it's, what are all the top stories? Gun death. You watch political reports, what are the top stories? So-and-so called someone a name. Conflict, right? And so, of course, that narrative of conflict does not do well when you talk about issues like immigration, migration, people of other faiths, people of other cultures. It's never a narrative of welcome, we're all the same. It's always a narrative of look at our differences, look at where we disagree. And that, unfortunately, changes how people view